Now, my opening construct basically revolves around 4 points. A, any technology which is new is disruptive in nature, and therefore there is nothing new per se about what we now term as disruptive technologies. 2, all technologies have always acted as a catalyst for change. Therefore, I have full reason to believe that disruptive technologies will also be a harbinger and catalyst for change. 3, I believe what disruptive technologies will do is basically help in the reset that is taking place. I am not talking from a conspiratorial point of view, but I am talking from an academic point of view. A reset is on, and disruptive technologies will accelerate that reset. So what disruptive technology are doing is that they are providing basically a new toolkit in the hands of the policy makers. That is the fundamental point for today. So it's a new toolkit that we need to understand. Now, a disruptive technology has a 360-degree radar and a 360-degree zone of influence because it is spread across all domains, and it is also spread across all spectrums. I have just listed the few important ones. I believe that the greatest impact of disruptive technology will be in the political domain, because it will disturb the existing balance of power. And that is why the disruptive technology's greatest impact will be in the political domain. Linked to that is its effect in the social domain, because the society will be disrupted to an extent that it will extend an overarching influence on the political domain. And there, obviously, as I said, the great contestation of dialectics of will between powers will overtake. It will, as a military man, I must also say, it will impact the domain and spectrum of military, and I will dwell upon that a little later. But as somebody who has dealt with strategic nuclear matters at close hands, I must profess that when I go deep into the possibilities and probabilities that disruptive technologies open up, I believe that in the strategic domain also it will play a very vital factor. And last but not the least, it will impact the financial and economic side in a big way. And it will also impact our environment the way we understand. Marshal Ashfaq Arai has quite eloquently explained the spectrum. At the top of that, obviously, is the artificial intelligence. This is something new to humanity. We always believed in the ultimate human intelligence, but that era is about to end if it has not ended already. You have seen the greatest chess masters of the world beaten hollow and square by artificial intelligence, and that is just the beginning. Obviously, quantum computing and advanced materials will play their own role. And as a military man, I understand how the hypersonic missiles, some of which have already been developed and deployed by at least 2 nations, if not 3 in the world, will impact strategic stability in the globe. The way we live, the way we grow our food in biotechnologies, that will be a spectrum to look for. And for that, the nanotechnologies and robotics will be an integral part of this spectrum. Now focusing in the military domain, I believe that all three traditional domains of the military, that is land, naval and maritime, and air and aerospace, will be impacted. Impacted to an extent that the character of the war will change, and change not significantly but fundamentally. And we are beginning to see telltale signs of this change character of war in some of the recent conflicts, whether it is in Nagorno-Karabakh or it is in Ukraine. You can see some of the initial signs. But apart from these three traditional military domains, the two emerging domains that are of great significance and which will probably overpower the first three domains that I spoke about, they are cyber and space. So it is in the field of cyber and space that destructive technologies will have their premium shock and awe show to show. Now, in these domains, you are new to the world. Our internet, which we thought was bringing us to a new world, will only act as only a small component of the bigger cyber world, way beyond our current Earth and into the future worlds. And therefore, space will be of vital importance. I admire and salute those who had put Pakistan in the space field in the 1960s. And I hope and pray that as a nation, we can pay greater focus as being a spacefaring nation with all the added advantages that will emerge in the future. Now, that's the traditional military domain. In the strategic domain, what disruptive technologies will do is they will increase strategic leverages. Leverages for those for whom it is a matter of policy choices. So greater toolkit of disruptive technologies, greater an increase in the strategic leverages. What that would imply is that through disruptive technologies, there would be an increase of strategic swath and strategic space for those who are in use of or can employ disruptive technologies by choice to their design. And therefore it will impact the TSR metrics in the strategic domain. So therefore, in the strategic domain, I conclude that disruptive technologies will have an overarching strategic effects, and Pakistan as a nuclear state needs to look closely at these emerging trends, and I'm glad to note that respective individuals and respective organizations are cognizant of this and have understood and are working towards this end. But like all technologies, these disruptive technologies, they pose their own risks. To me, I've just listed three. I believe that disruptive technologies have the ability to create a technical apartheid between nations that possess and nations that do not possess these technologies. Therefore, the disruptive technologies will impact significantly on national security. To me, disruptive technologies will also impact national sovereignty. I did want to make a point that apart from these risks, there is a greater risk, not well defined probably at this moment, but lurking somewhere behind. It is that we, as Homo sapien species on this earth, are being challenged for the first time. And therefore there carries a risk that artificial intelligence, if left unbridled, can actually impact the very existence of Homo sapiens in the form and shape as we understand. So these disruptive technologies will create effects. They will create, obviously by virtue of the name, as you understand, a disruptive effect. But that can create a larger effect of paralysis, of imbalance, of critical imbalance. But they do also provide opportunities. And I just list two. One, already mentioned by the Air Marshal, that they can be a game changer across the spectrum and across the games. So if you're wanting to play the game, then disruptive technology is the field, or are the fields, to actually contest in. But the second is more important for asymmetrical powers. I believe that disruptive technologies will provide asymmetrical advantage. And because they are low in cost and high in effects, therefore in an asymmetrical advantage contestation, this can prove to be a great benefit to the force which is actually lesser in number, or as a force power potential, the nation per se has a lower power potential. This one particular event can put you ahead of the loop. So that's, I believe, the greatest opportunity. In the global construct, I believe that we need to link disruptive technologies with disarmament, because that's the only way we can induce a global standard of ethics into the decision-making loop, the policy-making loop of the world in this domain. If we want to retain control, but then it can't be a club of the few. It has to be that everyone's interests will have to be taken care of. Interests not of the big powers, but interest of the humans first. I'm not very hopeful on that account. Finally, what is the vital component of the disruptive technology? And it is simply one, that is data. Data is the core foundation on which any disruptive technology will be actually based upon. It's the availability of the data, it's the mining of the data, it's the scalability of the data, and it's the security of the data that is going to be more fundamental in the future. To me, this will add a new dimension to national security, but more importantly, national sovereignty. You have to seriously look at data national sovereignty. So what is my concluding thought? I believe that we should harness these disruptive technologies at lightning pace. We must embrace these disruptive technologies as a catalyst for change. And in that, the focus, as I've already said, on cyber and space, and keeping national data very close to our heart and fully secure. We must craft and implement a national policy towards this end, and we must energize and synchronize the national effort. And last but not the least, as I already said, but I thought worth important to conclude, we must be as a nation part of the debate and the process of maintaining human control over these disruptive technologies. I thank you for the invite. Thank you.